It will. It looks like it will.
Okay. Amen. You too.
To me, I think
Definitely will. It's already going in the right direction. All right.
Okay, so who's ready?
Here. No.
Okay.
How do you keep this going? Once this is over, how do you keep it? Like after a month or two, it shouldn't drop off.
And it's very, it's so beautiful to see that that's what you want, right? So for the sake of the relationship, you want to keep it up, right? Okay, so how about if we talk about that Thursday night after we finish, okay? Because we want to get to the next very exciting tool. So we're going to talk about active listening for a few minutes and good talking, okay? Both good talking and active listening are very, very important in order to do our next very exciting tool, our next exercise. So we do have a sheet about active listening in the book. Okay. Active listening, do you all have that page?
No.
Let's see where it is. 16. Oh, 16? Okay, 16. So turn to page 16.
These are eye statements already.
Not the eye statements.
That's page 16.
I'll keep it.
Active listening. Yeah. Active listening. The part that says active listening, right there. Okay, great. So there's two very important things that are going to be taking place in our next exercise.
Where is it? Not to do which page?
Number page 16. I remember if I wrote something about it. No, okay. So we need a good listener and a good speaker, right? For every conversation to really be effective, for bonding to take place, for the sake of our relationship, and especially in this next tool, it's really important that we review what active listening is and what good talking is, because this is a conversation that we're going to have. It's not a conversation, I'm sorry. It's a tool. And the next page, right after active listening, we see something called dialogue guide. This is an unbelievable, incredibly helpful exercise and a tool that comes very useful. This is for those hot topics, those buttons, those things that some of you put, on the hearing behavior by mistake, like something that you'd like to see changed, something that bothers you, something that you want to really talk about. So this is really the dialogue guide. It's not yet a solving tool. You're not going to necessarily solve the issue at hand with the dialogue guide. However, it is a confiding tool, because this is a tool where you actually get an opportunity to confide to your spouse what is really going on with you, what's happening because of a specific measurable behavior, and what you'd like instead. Now, who remembers the daily temperature reading? We have complaint with a request for change. Remember that one? Okay, so remember that has only 3 stems, right? When you specific measurable behavior, this is how I feel, and this is what I want instead. So that's for a small issue. However, if we have something that bothers us more, something that needs much more addressing, this is the perfect place to take that situation and put it into the dialogue guide. Because it has more sentence stems, it gives us more of an opportunity to talk more in detail with guidance, according to the stems, about what it is that bothers us, where it's coming from, what we're assuming it may be, what we resent about it, what we regret, what we would like instead, and finish off with appreciation and realizing and hope, okay? But in order to do a dialogue guide like that, we need to have good talking skills. Okay, so because we want to make sure that our message is being received. So in order for good talking to be successful, that our spouse should hear us, it has to be, number one, direct. right? It can't be beat around the bush. Direct, right? And we spoke about that the first night. So don't drop hints, and that's why these caring behaviors on that list is so awesome, because now you have specific, very direct, things that would make you feel good and loved. So get to the point, be direct. And that's one of the reasons why this dialogue guide is so helpful, because it helps you be more direct, because you can be more specific. Good talking has to be clear. So besides for direct, it needs to be very specific, very clear. Make sure that your spouse understands what in the world you're saying. Okay, don't give like some kind of like snowy picture. Okay, describe it well. Make sure that your listener is not, confused. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why you also need to be an active listener, which we'll go in. For the listener and the speaker are making sure throughout this dialogue guide that we're both on the same page. So now, whereas during the daily temperature reading, the only response is thank you, during this dialogue guide, we are also doing active listening. We're not just saying thank you. Because we want to make sure that we are, as a listener, I want to make sure that I am understanding what you're saying, and that brings empathy. So again, for good talking skills, we need to be direct, clear, specific, okay? And this is going back to, for the daily temperature reading to be correct, it needs to be, for it to be effective, it needs to be specific. For the caring behavior to be effective, it needs to be specific. We need to be specific, okay? Exactly, don't be vague, general, details. The more details you talk about, the better off of a chance that the listener will understand. And again, that's why this dialogue guide has so many incredible steps. Of course, good talking has to be honest, okay? If we want our message, to do good, it needs to be honest. Don't say something that you don't really think or feel, because you might regret it. So make sure that it really matches, not only the facts, but also how you feel about it. And of course, good talking has to be tactful. If we want our message to be heard, then it needs to be kind. It may not be something that the person, that your spouse will be necessarily feel comfortable hearing, but we need to be as kind as we can. Of course, we need to always ask, for a right to speak, because I maybe feel like I have a situation that I need to do a dialogue on now, but what happens if, for example, if the spouse right now needs to smoke? It won't work, right?
Oh no.
Okay.
That's why we smoke.
So you don't want to say anything accidental. You don't want to hurt in any specific way. And that's why it's a very, very good idea to always, before you want to do a dialogue guide, to write up and journal those most important parts in advance. So it doesn't happen, without no mistakes.
Like the president going to speak. Everything is very print out, no mistake.
Yeah, but that's all a lie.
Right.
You have to be honest.
Right, that's the difference with the president.
You need to be honest.
Right, so good talking is honest. Okay, so now we have the good talking part, but now we have to also make sure that we're active listening, okay? So if you see on the sheet, number 1, the speaker requests and the listener provides active listening. Again, this is the same like the other, like emptying the jug, etc. If you're not available at the moment, you don't have to do it right then and there, but for the sake of the relationship, you do want to reschedule within 24 hours. If permission is granted, the speaker uses I statements. Now, if you really follow the dialogue on, you won't have a problem. They start with I, and they give you the stem. So just be careful that you don't change the stem after the ... okay? So focus on being direct, concise, and of course write it down. Now, active listening, also, the difference again between this is that we are listening. We're not only saying thank you. So we are going to stop and make sure that we understood what our spouse is saying. So the listener stops the speaker when she or he heard as much as they possibly can comfortably remember. It's not a memory tester in any way. It's not like, oh my gosh, I have to spit back exactly what the person says. Okay? But, most people will find some sort of communication that will work for both of them. A wink, a squeeze, a push, a hand, something, some kind of communication that, wait a second, hold on. And then, the listener gets a chance to make sure that, that we understood, okay? And that part, that active listening part of really reflecting back makes a world of a difference. So, now, as the listener, we want to make sure that we didn't leave anything out. So we want to reflect what we heard and try to make sure we understand. But we never, interrupt. We don't rebut, or we don't make any changes, and we give, any of those kind of things. Now, if I am the listener, and I am actively listening and I'm reflecting back, then the speaker now has to let me know if I was correct or not. If I misunderstood, then the speaker repeats it in a different way, or repeats the piece that was missing, okay? And if it's accurate, then you just say, yes, thank you. Okay? So the speaker is the one that's actually saying thank you now, because the speaker is saying thank you for hearing me, for listening to me, and validating for clarifying it. Okay, so you continue like that until the communication is complete. Okay, so if we go to, so good listening is active. Okay, it's not just I'm waiting for my turn so that I can talk. I'm hearing you so I can say something. At this point,
So you want to basically have a one-on-one conversation.
No, I'm listening, and I am reflecting it back. So it's not as one way as a way to
I'm showing that I understand everything I'm hearing from the other.
You don't respond?
No, you don't respond.
No, it's
You
not.
Sound like you do
you
respond,
just
really,
because sometimes the person says something and you think the other had it clear, but you really just understood something different. It's
Also, you can empathize.
they empathize. Oh, empathize.
We don't do the empathy now. We do it all the way at the end. No.
It says as you go, you can say
Right,
things like, I can understand how you feel like.
Are we getting samples?
Listen, we get all that. You'll see. You'll see a demo. It happens at the end.
Yeah, what's the
Hold on, we're not up to
We
validation.
already have a demo.
You have a demo?
Yeah.
We're going to show you a demo. So
Yeah,
number one,
yeah.
active listening.
At the end of the dialogue, is that what you're saying?
Active listening is active, meaning you are not. I'm really actively listening. I'm not waiting for my turn to speak. I'm really here. I'm trying to hear and understand.
But that's the same idea as the
Yes.
day temperature.
But it's much deeper. It's like trying to find a solution to an actual.
Well,
So
hold
you
on.
are answering back.
Hold on.
Wait.
I'm speaking about what active listening means. You can do active listening all the time. When your child speaks to you, or the kid's complaining about school, or your mother tells you something. Active listening is a good thing to know. That when I'm listening to somebody, if I'm actively listening, I'm not thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to say. I'm not thinking about. I'm
saying
really
to
actively.
tune out everything else. Just pay attention.
During dialogue guide, if you're not actively listening, there's no way in the world I'll be able to reflect back. I'm going to keep missing it, okay? So, active listening is attentive. I'm concentrating. I want to get the full meaning. I'm not like guessing what you're saying. Active listening is open-minded. I'm giving the person who is speaking an opportunity to be open, to speak freely. Okay? I'm looking to learn about the speaker. I can decide later if I'm going to agree, if I'm not going to agree. But right now, I'm taking it fully in. That's active listening. Okay? Active listening is respectful. I'm not interrupting. I'm not, talking about other things. And of course, active listening is also being careful. Okay? If I don't understand what the person said, the person is talking to me is saying, then I need to make sure I understood it right then, and I don't wait. I don't start building assumptions. Okay? So again, the listener is. So while we're going to do the dialogue, the listener is going to stop at small intervals and just as much as you can remember, and try to reflect back. You can, paraphrase. You can just kind of just make sure to give the idea that you're really there with the speaker. It's a very, very powerful tool to put deposits in your love bank.
This is an add-on to the daily temperature, this is beside, this is to replace, this is to.
Great question. This is a tool that you don't use every day. This is a tool that takes a little longer, and this is a tool that you do want to prepare before. This is for those hot buttons, those issues that bother you. Once a week.
Yeah, but you bring up by daily temperature, the first, what is it,
Complaint and request for change.
And
No,
and by the-
speakers.
that's the
Brought up-
same,
brought up
it's the
speakers.
same
The
thing.
By the
daily
jar.
temperature was not good.
Ah, you heard what she just said now? If during the daily temperature reading, you're bringing up hot,
Big issues.
big issues, the daily temperature won't be good. This
Won't
is
be
for the
enough.
hot, for the daily, for the
Then
hot
you have
issue.
emptying the jar.
I know,
Well,
but.
yes,
But that doesn't
yes.
resolve things.
Sometimes-
It just enables you to.
To me, it does sound like the same thing.
No,
Same.
it's not.
This is a way of resolving the
it's
temperature
this-
reading problems, no?
This is
This
not
is
a way
like-
of resolving, it's a way of taking an issue that's much deeper
Bigger,
and bigger and really bothers you more
Yeah,
and
don't
keeps
bring up
adding
these
to
things
that,
by daily temperature.
that keeps adding to the emotional jar.
Just teaching you active listening.
And it teaches both. It teaches you how to be a good speaker, we said, and also an
listen.
active listener.
So it's nothing to
Now,
do doing. It's not actually a task. But it's
we
just-
will also, next week, we will also
Thursday.
teach, Thursday, I'm sorry, thank you. We will also give you an opportunity to learn how to have a fair fight for change. And what we're gonna do is, you're all gonna have an opportunity to journal your dialogue guide, to choose a specific situation you wanna work on, go through the dialogue guide, journal it, prepare it. Thursday, you're gonna actually do it. And then we will help you, we will also teach you how to actually take that specific issue, because we're not gonna choose another one, and have a fair fight for change, okay?
If I can give you a very easy example, Marshall, is when you, sometimes you go to the doctor for a regular checkup, right? So when the doctor finds something and he's gonna say, okay, for this we need an X-ray. So that exercise is an X-ray where you put everything on the table and you see inside out what's the total issue. When you don't make an X-ray, you're just the first time by the doctor.
So this is you pick one topic and you get more serious about it.
Yes, exactly.
Unlike
Now,
all the
I mean, it has to be in a
situations
good
where you just go
time,
through
it has to be in a good time, you have to
Yeah.
have the time
You
before
need
and
time
after,
for this.
expect the,
I can see you being one of these seminar teachers. by
I
the way.
know.
this. I'd come.
Huh? Okay, I do it? Got it? I'll come back
plus
again?
you do it in your marriage, and then
My husband does it for couples, so that's why I brought him here.
Okay, great, so listen, this is a very valuable tool, because if you do
I was
it,
gonna say,
19 years marriage.
we're looking,
Okay.
But I don't know, you know what I'm saying? It
We're
doesn't work for me, it
actually-
doesn't for others.
they have to go, so we have to continue. We're actually looking for a issue we wanna bring up.
You looking for a sample couple?
No, if we're looking for an issue within us to bring up, not even for the sake of, looking for a solution. You really have an opportunity to get to know yourself better through this dialogue guide, to get to know your spouse better, and it's very, very effective, okay? So, I just want to say one more thing about this, and then we're going to show the demo, okay? And that's going to answer a lot of your questions. Once you finish, the speaker finishes the entire dialogue guide,
Yeah.
and the listener did active listening throughout, now the listener goes to validation and empathy, okay? So validation is letting the speaker know that the communication was accepted as a true and valid experience for the speaker. And it gives you an example. I can understand how when I don't look at you, it seems that I'm not uninterested. So empathy is finding emotional resonance with the speaker's experience, regardless of any opinion. Like for example, I can imagine that then you feel discounted and angry. I would feel uncomfortable too if I thought that someone important to me was ignoring me. And here it's giving you some sentence stems for actual validation and empathy, which is the listener's turn. So the speaker does the whole dialogue guide, and you'll see that soon. And then the listener now validates and empathizes, and then then the speaker really feels that, that difference.
And I got my Malki, you have to do this, want to get rich? You have to do this for businesses and for customer service.
Thank you.
after your marriage.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay? So what we're gonna do now,
First, you have to start working, practicing it in your marriage.
If you want to get
And
money
then
from you, that big box, you'll make a presentation from company and you'll teach them this. You're gonna make
After your
$1,000 an hour,
After you're married.
even more. I'm telling you.
Because you can have a lot of money, but the marriage doesn't work.
Marriage
So
is good already.
if you,
Marriage is good.
no, I'm saying you have to practice it. It's something you practice. If you don't practice in your marriage, then outside this, the more you practice in your marriage, the more you'll be ready to use it.
but it's great ideas.
So I don't
We'll use all our
get, the
ideas.
dialogue guide,
It's a shame.
the dialogue guide that I'm looking at,
No,
all
isn't it
this
for workers
is
or
the
company?
speaker?
All of that is the speaker,
Huh?
yes.
So this is a step the speaker is taking.
Yes, and the speaker is the one that needs to prepare.
Shh.
You're missing important things. That's for the speaker. The dialogue guide is only for the speaker, and this is what you want to journal in the
Just a
beginning. Now, okay, we're going to talk about journaling it
You don't have to
soon.
take the whole thing.
So now, is it ready?
Yeah.
So we're going to show you a demo. We are going to show you a demonstration.
Now, Kisa, you'll be able to send it to me, or I'll be able to
It's
see
on.
it?
Yeah.
But this?
Yeah, I'll send it.
This is online. You can find it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. So I'm gonna go.
Hold on.
There's the popcorn here for the movie, or it's not so much.
For example, from a couple of weeks ago, when I brought up this idea,
That's in there. Is it with I need to close it or open it again.
I'm gonna have to shut it down.
Not the computer, just the screen. I need to close
Yeah,
it.
what's going on?
No, that's-
Oh, okay. No?
It didn't shut it.
What if I prepare it?
that, times when I'm really excited about something, and so Robin, do I have your permission to use the request for change tool?
And this film.
This is okay.
Right.
Let me just make sure I make this clarification, smaller. Okay, we have.
So Robin, do I have your permission to use the
Oh,
request for
hold on,
change
one
tool?
second. This couple, by the way, was our teachers.
What a request for change, isn't it?
Oh, okay, one more, I'm sorry.
Okay.
One more, thing beforehand. You don't follow the dialogue guide, because they did a very shortened version, okay? So this is just to give an idea of how the dialogue guide would work, but it would be a much, much longer video if it were, if I make it full screen,
this
then
will go-
you can,
No,
What?
just on your computer.
how? If I do it like this, full screen?
No.
If I do full screen, for some reason, this player,
okay.
let's go.
Thank you. So I made some notes just to keep me on track. So I observed that, times when I'm really excited about something and I've had a big brainstorm and just full of ideas and thoughts, I'm waving my arms along excited, that in response, typically what you say first is to suggest things I might not be thinking about or that might not work. You respond with a critique.
All right, so what you observe is that when you get really excited about something, you have a passionate idea, you tend to express it with a lot of enthusiasm and waving your arms. And what I tend to start with, my first response tends to be a critique of some kind or raising questions or expressing doubts.
Yes, thank you. For example, when I was talking about going to dance school, you mentioned how my ideas about how I might be able to earn an income with that were not realistic.
So, for example, when you were talking about your vision about going to dance school, I pointed out that maybe your expectation about it being financially lucrative were not realistic.
Yes, maybe not lucrative, but possible.
Yeah, possible.
Also, doing this video is another example from a couple of weeks ago when I brought up this idea. You were like, oh, this is going to be a big hassle, we don't have time to do that, that's like, no way.
So also another example is just filming this video. And my first response was, oh no, it's going to be a big hassle, it's going to take too much time, and blah, blah, blah.
Thank you, yes. So I react by just getting exasperated and deflated. This big energy I'm feeling at that moment kind of gets deflected from the idea that I'm having and the fun of that to frustration and dismay that I end up directing at you. And
Say that. So you react by getting dismayed and frustrated and deflated.
Frustrated, dismayed, yeah.
Dismayed, okay. And that your big emotion about what you're trying to share gets then kind of just sidetracked into your reaction to me, and you end up blaming that on me.
Yeah, and exactly. And then underneath I just feel heartsick and disappointed and scared that maybe I don't have any good ideas.
So underneath you're feeling heartsick and disappointed, and really underneath that then maybe you doubt yourself. Maybe your ideas aren't any good.
Yeah, thank you. So I resent when you don't share my enthusiasm, my happy place, the happy picture I'm painting.
So you resent when I don't join with you and share your enthusiasm and join in the happy picture and feelings of possibility that you're painting.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So I'm particularly frustrated when I feel like I'm in a good creative process and it gets disrupted.
So particularly frustrated when you're in a creative role on something and then it's disrupted by my reaction.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm afraid of losing the thread, of not being able to reconnect to the inspiration, and that something valuable will be lost.
So you're afraid that then you'll lose the thread and won't be able to reconnect to the inspiration you had, and that something really valuable could be lost in that process.
Yeah, thank you. It reminds me of being a kid, when the grown-ups had all the answers, and everywhere I went, whether it was about religion and church, or about how to be at home, or in particular, really in school, about just having a lot of ideas about maybe what was being taught, or that there was some other possibility in school, and it was getting this response from the principal and teachers like, you're just a dumb kid, why are you being disruptive, like, you're just a pain in the neck, we're in charge, we know how things work, and like that.
So it reminds you of being a kid, and whether it was at church or at home, and even particularly in school, where you'd have a lot of creative ideas about a better way that things could be, or possibilities that weren't being taught, and you would bring those creative impulses, those thoughts, but the response was always, you're just a dumb kid, what do you know, and just shut you down.
Yeah.
And you're just being regarded as disruptive by your inspiration was disruptive.
Yeah, so I regret that my kind of overblown, super excited style when I'm enthusiastic about something is threatening or turn off. I suspect it is to you and probably other people too. And so there's, I think sometimes people may respond to me with an impulse to take me down a notch. If that's true, I regret it. So
you regret that your style, when you're caught up in this passion, is to be overblown or, super idealistic, and you regret if that has an overwhelming effect on people, or whether me, that I feel threatened and feel like I need to take you down
So I feel happiest when I can imagine a new thing and just live into it and talk about it like it was the greatest idea ever, like just completely transformational and wonderful, and to vividly create this powerful picture of an amazing future. And I know.
So you're happiest when you feel like you can just live into this bright idea and possibility, and you can just live into like it's the best idea ever, and that from that place you can just create this amazing future.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that, it's not going to turn out that smooth, and that any creative process is going to have up and downs and bump up against hard realities. I know that, but what I get in that initial phase of really imagining it is kind of like an emotional charge in my creative bank account that really sustains me through the getting it done.
So you know that there are going to be ups and downs in the project, and what really matters here is
Yeah,
that
I'm about to go there.
the emotional charge of and excitement and possibility you see in that moment fills this reservoir that you
Relax your eyes.
depend on to see
I'm
the
either
ups
shutting.
and downs. And so you really are then nourished, nurtured,
Thank you, especially at the beginning.
especially at the beginning.
Yeah. So here's what I want. So when I'm excited about something and I'm sharing that with you, I'd like three things. One, kind of from
So when you're excited about something and you're sharing that with me, you'd like three different things.
yeah. One, kind of from the heart, I'd like for you to just say something about how great it is that I'm excited, that I'm enthusiastic, that I'm having an idea, a sense of the future that's fun and exciting for me.
So first, you want me to say something positive about how excited you are and how hopeful and how creative and possible sense of the future that you're bringing.
Yes. Yeah. And secondly, then I'd like for you to say three things. This is before you say anything else, by way of critique or whatever. Say at least three things that are good ideas, kind of like from the head, like where this idea could make sense.
So then you want me to say three things that I like, that I appreciate, that could really make sense, that could really be very valuable about this notion that you have.
Yes, thank you. And then third thing, before offering any critiques or helpful feedback or possibilities I haven't thought about, that you ask for permission to give me feedback or offer critique.
All right, so the third thing is, before I offer any of my great feedback and ideas about, what things you might not have thought of, or any critiques that I have, that I ask your permission first, see if you're okay.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So how this would help me is in these flights of fancy, supported in that, I believe I can generate a lot of great ideas at times. And obviously, probably most of them are not going to pan out, but I believe that there will be some that will be valuable.
So how this will help you is that it will support you in really exploring these flights of fancy, and that in them you may come up with some really valuable ideas that we want to implement.
Yeah.
And
And how it would help us is I would feel really supported in a place that's sort of tender and happy and vulnerable for me, and that would build trust and good feelings between us.
so you feel really supported in a place that's tender and joyful, and it would help build trust between us that I can be with you there and support you there.
Yeah, and vulnerable too.
And vulnerable.
Yeah.
Vulnerable.
And, great ideas, given that we're business partners as well as life partners, will benefit us both.
Yeah, and so from that, some of the best ideas will be able to really benefit both of our lives.
Yes, thank So I appreciate that when I do have really good ideas, even if you're resistant and, I have to fight for it with you initially, that eventually you nearly always come around.
So you appreciate that when you do have ideas that are really good ones and want to implement, that I eventually do come around and support you in this.
Yes. And I also really appreciate your, voice of reason, your voice of caution, your voice of, maybe have you thought about this, or, what if you did it differently? Your insight and your critiques and your feedback are invaluable and crucial for me, and I really rely on them.
So you also really appreciate my voice of reason, my feedback, my instincts about, I'm not sure, say that one again.
Go ahead.
So you also really appreciate my voice of reason and the critical thinking I do about it.
Yes.
And that is really valuable to you for me to add that when the time's right.
Yes.
And in fact, you really depend on that.
Yes, thank you. And I realize how much I need your support. And I feel like, maybe I should be more self-reliant. I worry about that sometimes. But at the end of the day, of all people, I just need you to believe in me and to have the sense that you do believe in me.
So you realize you really do need my support. And sometimes you think you should be more self-reliant or self-generating, but we're partners, and you need to know that I believe in you.
Yes, thank you. And I hope that we can find a better way to include both our styles and strengths, and that we can use them together to manifest, lives that are fulfilling and that are creative and that create the kind of world that we want to live in.
So you hope that we can find a way to utilize both our strengths and combine them and blend them in a way that's really creative and can create the kind of world together that we really both want to live in. Brings us joy.
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I resent when you.
Okay, now we're gonna watch how Robin
So you
how Robin validates, how she responds by validating. Oh my gosh, this works.
It's on past laptop.
Why is it not
Open it from the bottom.
Oh,
Close it.
it's on the response.
I appreciate you really letting me know. And I really get how my reaction just shuts you down and been a big dream drainer, and it just sucks all the air out of what you're creating, giving birth to, how unsupportive that is. And I'm really sorry for how I sabotaged you that way. And I empathize. I had some similar feelings as a kid about not being respected for my impulse, and so you're the last person I want to do this to. So I'm really gonna give this some deep thought tonight. I'm open to your idea, and I think what I need is probably some ways for you to remind me and to know that it's one of those
if you notice, they didn't do all the stems, but they were following a dialogue guide, basically.
Now they are professionals. They have done that for like many years, so that's why it flows and there's a lot of speaking and
everyone can get there. They started off from a very hard place. They were both, had previous marriages. They took all their emotional allergies from growing up. They grew up in one of them in a really disruptive home. That, really, they had very hard childhoods, and they were previously married, and they took all the emotional allergies. They're older than us, and they brought it into this marriage. So if they got to where they're at, anybody can get there. So just if you look at the dialogue guide, they basically followed not all the stems, but I notice, I assume, I suspect, I believe, I resent, I wonder, and then they got to the,
She repeated everything he said in every sentence.
Right.
It's a bit excessive.
So that's very important.
Okay.
That's extremely important. And notice she didn't use the exact same words.
Very close.
No, not always.
Not always. If you really listen,
She changed it here and there a few times.
Because you could tell she was
Trying to
really
understand.
listening.
Yeah.
You just have to show that you really understood exactly what the other one is saying.
Okay.
That's the.
So if she would not repeat it, Rabbi Klein,
I'm listening.
would he really feel hurt? Would he really feel as hurt?
Probably.
No. And that's what active listening. That's why it's so important. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is, okay, your homework it's an awesome homework to do. Go home, and instead of we'll save time Thursday night, since it's Thursday night, it's our Shabbos. Instead of spending 3.5 hours together, we'll save time.
I'm at home Shabbos, so it's fine. I'm away.
If you guys go home,
No.
and on your own time, number one homework is, and you might want to write this down, is to think of the
Right then.
one issue you want to address, okay? And then please send it to either of us, text it or email us, let us know what exactly is your issue that you want to bring up, okay? We'll just make sure that it's not a attitude or
Each of us?
That's a
Just one-
behavior.
We just think. we
each
pick
one.
issue
This is a homework you do on your
Together.
own. Your homework is to do on your
On
own.
our own?
On your own. You do it on your own. Think of your one thing that you want to bring up. Run it by one of us. Make sure we want to just make sure it's a behavior, not a attitude or character thing. Then, once we know it's a behavior, you want to journal this whole dialogue guide. Okay? Email it to one of us so that we can. It's very hard for most people to get this in the beginning. You may be stuck in some parts. Email at least whatever, or take a picture of it, of your notes. Just run it by us. We'll try to help you out, via email, via phone, so that you have it down straight. So that when we walk in here on Thursday, the first thing that we're going to do, possibly, or either the first or second thing we're going to do, is that you're actually going to sit down and you're each going to get a chance to do your dialogue.
So we write down, we have to put all these
Yes.
things
Now don't do
into-
it in here. Don't mess up your page. That's my personal recommendation. Leave this page empty because you always want to be
Make a
referred
copy,
to it.
scan it and copy it.
So either make a copy and literally write in it, or better,
Just
much
notes,
easier,
it's like
is just write
individual
notes.
lines. Yeah.
I noticed, and stick in,
It
continue
doesn't matter
the
what
sentence there.
order, you just somehow.
No, keep
It
this
does?
order.
Oh, yeah,
Then
yeah,
the order is
yeah.
Oh,
very important.
from there,
That
now
order.
I
I
see.
notice
Now I see
specific
that.
measurable behavior. I assume this means the assumption you're making. You may be right, you may be wrong. Hold on, I'm explaining the sentence stems. You might want to look at it.
I'm listening.
I notice, what's your behavior? I assume what I'm assuming the behavior is. What I suspect, and many people, kind of have a little bit of a hard time with you assume I suspect. So if you do, you can ask us about that specific behavior. We can help you. And on the other hand, what I believe, meaning this is what my values and priorities are about the situation, what I resent about it, what I wonder, what I am hurt about this thing, what I regret, This part is very important based on past experience, what I'm afraid of. Basically, it's really a good idea to touch into your past, where it's coming from, then what you're frustrated about, and now we're going into the positive things. Now you're giving, like, you finished with the behavior, you finished with how it makes you kind of feel, and now you're going into the request for change, okay? So I'm happier when, I want you to, that's the specific, measurable, positive behavior that you want instead, how this would help me, how I believe this would benefit our relationship, what I appreciate about you, what I recognize now that I did this whole thing, what I recognize about myself, and what I hope. Okay, stick to one issue throughout. The issue is, I noticed, that is the one behavior we're sticking to. We're not changing the whole time. And,
1 second, you want the whole dialogue to be from one issue?
yes.
Yeah. It's always for one issue. It's always for one issue.
This is the issue that bothers you.
It's like a big thing. Like,
The big thing that bothers you. We
Well,
will
I
also,
I know some of it.
then don't forget that once you finish this dialogue guide on Thursday, and with Hashem's help, we will also be able to show you how to have a fear fight for change using this. So you'll actually be able to solve.
You know, it's the type of thing that it can go for 10 years and you just fight about it there, but it's never really getting resolved. And it's
100%.
Like really putting it on the table and
You'll be able to actually go
that's
through
why it takes more time and more to do stuff. This is one of the big stuff. But I think you did great, guys.
Yes, give yourselves a hand. Awesome.
Give you a hand.
So please, we're going to be expect as soon as possible, because it's it's Monday night, and we want to really if you're very prepared, it'll save time.